Do you think the court will overturn discrimination in public accommodations? Paul M. Smith, an attorney who has argued in front of the court 19 times including Lawrence v. Texas, says, "This is the first time the First Amendment has been used to allow a for-profit business serving the public to discriminate. Now, the scope of how far that's going to be taken now that they've managed to breach that line is what I really worry about. Because the First Amendment is very broad. It includes not just a free speech right, but also a freedom of association right. What if the restaurant owner says I don't want to have people having to associate in my restaurant with same-sex couples? Or you own a bed and breakfast and you don't want to associate with people sleeping in your bedroom together that you think are engaging in sin? It's not just LGBTQ. What about interracial couples, if somebody says I don't believe in that?" Now that the court understands the First Amendment to supersede public accommodations laws where expression is involved, what is to stop the court from rolling back further civil rights era protections on the basis that providing any goods or services involves speech via the freedom of association? This SCOTUS has been pretty clear in their intent to overturn based on political lines. Not sure why anyone thought their rhetoric before being appointed would reverse afterwards. Thomas was pretty clear after rolling back Roe what was next. It's like the dog that finally caught the car, only it's the American populace who thinks there's something next. This was the goal along. JMO. What specific protections do you think are now in danger of being rolled back? No. It is about artistic expression. Buying a hamburger or staying at Best Western is not art. The Supreme Court was absolutely right in its decision. What is art will be further defined as cases proceed. This is the first time the First Amendment has been used to allow a for-profit business serving the public to discriminate. This is an inaccurate statement. Lawyers have an inherent bias in these cases and you shouldn't take their word at face value. Businesses have always been able to discriminate under the First Amendment, and the only exceptions are when the groups they are discriminating against are considered a protected class. I think this is a true constitutional crisis, a slippery slope of enormous magnitude. My understanding this may not be true is that the business bringing forth the suit had not even opened yet, and it's been presented in some media that this was a test case and purely speculative. There was no actual customer involved. If that were truly the case, what would happen with the ruling by the court? Did the business have standing at all? If successful, expect more civil rights to disappear and exclusionary practices to reappear. The histrionics around this case are tiring. The SCOTUS didn't approve discrimination, it allowed a contracted artist to not be compelled to make something against their deeply held personal beliefs. It ends there. I hope this backfires into their face so hard as well. Okay, let's play. So that means everyone can. Oh, you came into my business, Mr. Thomas? Oh, sorry, I don't believe in corrupt Supreme Court justices by or, oh, you are a religious Christian Trumper who wants to come have a sit down at my restaurant? Nope, sorry, I don't believe in that. The Republican black justice on the Supreme Court basically thinks that affirmative action, and likely much of the civil rights era end of Jim Crow laws across the South, was basically federal overreach. So yeah, what do you think will happen once people figure out how these guys vote? The argument against this is pretty easy, and I am surprised no lawyer has figured it out yet. You have a constitutional right to assembly and speech, but there is no constitutional right to running a licensed business. States and the federal government are within their power to create rules for what businesses and people can do when money is being exchanged. I think people who pay taxes in a society should have the same rights as anyone else. We shouldn't be tolerating intolerance, it's a slippery slope. If they discriminate based on what they believe in, it is not good for business or reputation. We should not force people to conform to others' beliefs. If service is refused, just don't go there. It just opens opportunity for a business to open that fits with your beliefs and views. We'll be back to segregation in a jiff if they have their way. one ruling at a time. Especially since you can now apparently go to the Republican lawsuit store located in a lawyer's office near you and just get a case crafted for the desired outcome. Absolutely. Barring a dramatic sea change in how the court operates, a court expansion, multiple resignations, or some similar shift on that scale, we are less than 5 years from the court striking down the Civil Rights Act of 1964 under the claim that it unconstitutionally restricts the rights of bigots to discriminate. Isn't definitely going to set precedent to discriminate in public service businesses. We're one step closer back to segregation. I think the left is overplaying this ruling. It is really a pattern of fear-mongering about fascism that doesn't exist outside of their imaginations. All this ruling says is that a business can deny anyone service. The left's view on this is that a business should only be able to deny service to a straight cis-white male. The left has clowned themselves into anti-white racism without even realizing it. I can see them weakening the laws but not going as far as overturning them entirely. Maybe I'm being too optimistic. To some degree, liberals and progressives have avoided the hard questions here because they fall back on ideology is not a protected class. So when people point out that they support the denial of service to Nazis, they can say, Nazis are not protected like sexual orientation is. But ideology is a big part of culture, which is a big part of gender and racial identities. When progressives can find a position that is more consistent, they will have a chance of moving the needle on the court's opinion, or at least the public's opinion. It doesn't exactly allow discrimination in everyday business. It allows discrimination when there is artistic expression inherent in the job. Still a bad decision, but not nearly as expansive as some people are trying to make it seem. I think the court could at some point overturn the 303 decision. But it might be a minute. SCOTUS has more power than the president, isn't that funny? President position is really looking weak. The president can't do anything to protect his people. Who pays the SCOTUS wages? These positions should not be given wages. Working less than a cashier but getting paid 100x. Seriously, what fraction of business would significantly change? There might be the rare extreme outlier, but attitudes are different today. Plus, maximal profit generally requires catering to the customer and not your biases, so that incentivizes businesses to be more welcoming. Emo, the GovT should stay out of private affairs. This protected classes concept is abhorrent. Either we're equally protected by the law or not. Not just some people. I'm not sure why people are worried. The last time America tried to discriminate, boycotts happened. Any business that doesn't want my money doesn't understand capitalism. Only color that matter is money green. At the end of the day, it is up to the public to decide who and where they decide to do business. We do not need the Supreme Court for that. America is over-legislated, aka baffled by BS. I do not really care what the court decides. The Supreme Court does not make my daily decisions. Absolutely, this Supreme Court will bring back slavery and rules about who is defined as a human, mark my words.